Have you ever wondered if a ghost isn't what we think it is? What if it's not some spirit floating through the walls, but an echo of a terrible secret someone tried to bury? What if a haunting is really just a memory, or a feeling so powerful it just refuses to die?
Well, we're going to explore that very idea through 3 chillingly true cases where a haunting felt all too real. We're going to start with a dark, dark mystery from Milwaukee, way back in 1919. So let's meet Margaret and Eric Marth. Shortly after they moved into their new home, they found out it came with, well, an unwelcome guest, one that paid Margaret a visit every single night. Every night like clockwork, Margaret would be thrashed awake, gasping for breath, completely convinced some vengeful spirit was attacking her in her sleep. Now, her husband, Eric, he saw her terror, but he was a skeptic. He just thought it was all in her head. Margaret, though, she knew this was something more. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Margaret was a devout follower of spiritualism. You know, the belief that the dead can speak to us. And she was absolutely determined to find out what the spirit in her house wanted. So she did what you did back then. She hired a medium. The seance begins, and almost immediately, things take a very strange turn. Margaret just shoots up from the table, her eyes totally vacant, and bolts from the room. It was like some invisible force was pulling her, leading her straight through the house and down into that dark, damp cellar. Eric, totally bewildered, runs after her. He finds her standing right in the middle of the dirt floor. And then she slowly raises her hand, points to a spot right at her feet, and in this hollow, unfamiliar voice, she gives a single, chilling command. Dig. Absolutely terrified by his wife's behavior, Eric reluctantly grabs a shovel. And after just a few minutes, thud. His shovel hit something hard. It was an old, rotten wooden box. When they managed to pry it open, they just recoiled in horror. Inside was a human skeleton. But here's the incredible twist. The ghost, it wasn't the victim in the box. It was the killer. The home's previous owner, a doctor, had botched an illegal surgery there 18 years earlier. His guilt was so profound, so all-consuming, that it became this energy that just lingered in the house, a psychic stain that couldn't be washed away until his crime was uncovered. The haunting was his confession.
So, a ghost born from guilt. Now let's jump forward to 1925, to a Hungarian castle where a grief-stricken baroness was convinced a literal demon was stalking her halls.
See, after her husband, the Baron, died suddenly from a heart attack, the Baroness became completely obsessed. She saw the horrified look on his face in death, and she refused to believe it was natural. No, she claimed he was scared to death by a demon that had now come for her. For 6 months, this paranoia just grew and grew. Night after night, she would scream that a demon was looming over her bed. It got so bad that her son, Lacey, finally called the police. Can you imagine that call? 3 detectives were sent to spend the night in a castle to catch a demon.
On the 3rd night of the stakeout, the screaming starts again. As Lacey ran towards his mother's room, he saw one of the detectives launch himself across the floor, tackling a dark, horrifying figure to the ground. In that moment, the supernatural felt terrifyingly real.
But when they flipped on the lights, the demon was revealed. It was no monster from hell. It was a field worker from the estate. And there was more. He was the Baron's secret illegitimate firstborn son. So this was never a haunting. It was a cold-blooded plot for revenge. Feeling abandoned and humiliated his entire life, the secret son decided to take what he thought was his. He dressed up as a demon to literally scare his father and stepmother to death. And it worked on the Baron. The ghost here wasn't a spirit, it was pure, all-consuming human rage. Our final story takes a different turn entirely. This haunting wasn't about a crime from the past, but about a terrifying event that was still to come. So, in 1927, a man named Clarence Sinclair swapped houses with an elderly couple, moving his family into their old farmhouse in Vermont. Seemed like a perfectly good deal. But almost immediately, Clarence became frantic, unhinged, begging the old couple to swap back. He was acting like his life literally depended on it.
So what was he so afraid of? It wasn't a ghost in the house. It was a ghost in his head. Every single night, his deceased mother appeared to him in his dreams with the exact same urgent message. Get out of this house. Something terrible is going to happen here.
The old couple refused to switch back.
Driven nearly mad by these dreams, Clarence just sold the farmhouse to another family to get away. A few weeks later, on November 4th, a historic flood tore through the region. The farmhouse was completely washed away, taking the new family with it. Clarence's dream wasn't a memory, it was a premonition.
So, what do these three strange, chilling stories really tell us about hauntings? What's the thread that connects all of them?
In each case, what looked like a supernatural event was actually a powerful human echo, imprinted on the world around it. The doctor's inescapable guilt just screaming for a confession. The son's burning rage demanding revenge. And a mother's love so strong it could reach across death itself to deliver a life-saving warning. These weren't ghosts of the dead, but echoes of the living. Intense emotions that refuse to fade away.
And that leaves us with one last thought. If these intense human emotions, guilt, revenge, even love, can leave such a profound mark on a place, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What modern secrets, what unspoken traumas are imprinting themselves on the world around us right now? What echoes from our time will ripple into the future and become the ghost stories of tomorrow?